The Federalists and Democratic Republicans emerged as two early political parties in the United States. The election of 1796 showcased their differences. The Federalists were the first major political party in the United States. They had their strongest support in the Northeast and were viewed as the elites. The Federalists believed in a strong federal government. They believed a stronger federal government would help the country prosper. John Adams was the Federalist candidate and became elected the second President of the United States. He was Vice President under George Washington. The Federalists believed in implied powers. These are powers the federal government had that were not specifically listed in the Constitution. They used implied powers as a justification for expanding power of the federal government. The Federalists supported the Jay Treaty. They saw this as a way to strengthen the U.S. by ending tension with Great Britain. They also believed it would help U.S. economic interests by trading with Great Britain. The Federalists supported the National Bank. Federalists like Alexander Hamilton believed the National Bank was needed to improve the economy, make it stronger. The Democratic Republicans were another major political party in the United States. They argued that the Federalists represented the elite class in the United States. The Democratic Republicans formed mostly in opposition to the Federalists. They believed that the actions by the Federalists and under the Washington administration expanded power too much for the federal government. The Democratic Republicans had most of their support in the southern states. This is where they found most of their support during the election of 1796. Thomas Jefferson was the Democratic Republicans' candidate in the election of 1796. He was a founding father and eventually would become the vice president in 1796 and was elected President of the United States 4 years later in 1800. The Democratic Republicans believed in a smaller government. They believed this was the best way to protect against a tyrannical government like that of Great Britain. They thought that many of the Federalist policies and acts by the Washington administration expanded the federal government's power too much. The Democratic Republicans believed the Federalist use of implied powers threatened democracy. They believed the powers that were not specifically granted to the federal government belonged to the states. The Democratic Republicans opposed the Jay Treaty. They opposed this because they were worried that the Federalist Party would become stronger if stronger economic ties were established with Great Britain. They opposed the National Bank because it wasn't in the Constitution. Since there was no mention of the National Bank in the Constitution, they didn't think the federal government should be able to create it. They also opposed it because they felt that the National Bank would favor the wealthy, that poor Americans would not have access to the National Bank. The Democratic Republicans favored a strict interpretation of the Constitution. They believed that if powers were not given to the federal government in the Constitution, the federal government did not have those powers.